y'all. Welcome back to your favorite podcast. I'm your host, Shelby McFarland, the marketing boss. I'm so glad that you have tuned in for another episode. It is so much fun every single week to be able to share with you guys little tidbits of either marketing advice or experience that I've had in business. Recently, I have posted on social media about when I survived COVID through like the whole 2020, 2021. And I posted a picture of some stickers that I put on the floor in a restaurant. And I posted about how, yeah, we're going to start that over. I just said posted 17 times. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to do it in Riverside, but you're still going to have to edit it. I guess it's better than not or having to upload it. Okay. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to your favorite podcast. I'm your host, Shelby McFarland, the marketing boss. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. I love sharing my experiences. I love sharing everything about business and marketing with you guys, and hope that you leave each episode learning more and being better in your job or in your business or in marketing, whatever you're listening to this for. A couple of weeks ago, I posted on social media a photo of stickers that I had put on the ground in a restaurant. And yes, you know what year that was. It was COVID. I posted about how I outfitted 25 school districts plus several restaurants that needed these little 6-foot stickers. And if you remember back then, we were all supposed to be 6 feet apart. And that was the only way that my marketing business survived. So whenever I put that out there, people were like, please make a podcast about how you survived COVID through with marketing and your sign shop and all the things. So here I am. Let's break it down on how the marketing broker actually survived COVID years. And I really want to talk about the years 2020 plus 2021, because I do think that both of those years were affected heavily with COVID when all that was around. And even to this day, if you're listening to the future, it's 2026. But I do think that we are still seeing some differences in marketing as well as AI and things like that coming up this year. So when COVID hit, I was working about 60 to 70 hours a week, and I was always networking. I was really just more so busy, right? We all think that the busier our calendar is, the more successful we are. And that is not true. That is from personal experience. And I know that I freaked out whenever they're like, hey, we've got to stay inside. You've got to go on lockdown. I had just opened a second sign shop location about an hour and a half away from where I lived. I was servicing a really small town called Stuttgart, Arkansas. No one there did signs. So between or around Stuttgart, there's about a 50-mile radius of where people would call Stuttgart for things or like do business in Stuttgart, because that was the quote unquote big town around. And so I, January of 2020, decided to open a new sign shop down there. I found a really great deal. The shop was about 2,000 square feet. I paid like $1,000 a month, and I was like, this is too good to be true. And so we go in, we had to do minimal construction. We opened the shop up, and it was March of that year, as you guys know, whenever the whole world shut down. So I got about 3 months into this new sign shop. I had slowed things down in Little Rock, where I'm based every day, to open up this shop. And so I went there every day. So you're talking 3 hours on the road and several miles, several hundred miles. And I didn't really have time to increase the awareness, market it correctly, right? Because we're from out of town. People were still getting to know us a little bit down there. And I knew that it was going to take time. But instead of having the 6 months I'd planned, I only had 3 months. So it was kind of funny whenever COVID first started and the whole 6-foot thing. We stayed in our house for about 30 days. And then I was like, listen, we've got to somehow go down there. We were actually under lockdown, as in like we had curfews and stuff here in Little Rock. They didn't have that in Stuttgart, but you could get out if it was quote unquote business related. So we would always, like, if we ever had gotten stopped, which thank God we didn't, but if we did, we could just be like, hey, we're going to do some installs after hours because, it's safer for our people because they're not going to be there. So when we were going down to Stuttgart, through all of this, we had the signs on the door that was like, please make an appointment or curbside pickup, all that. We were still servicing a lot of small businesses when it comes to yard signs because construction didn't stop, right? Construction kept going. In fact, it boomed in COVID. So I did a lot of yard signs at the very beginning. Then word got out that there was like a case of COVID in Stuttgart or whatever county that is. I don't remember what county it is, and they thought that we brought COVID to Stuttgart because we're the outsiders. We're from Little Rock. It was a whole freaking deal. It was so stupid. So the word got out that the Little Rock people, the Stuttgart sign shop people brought COVID down to Stuttgart. And so people then started distancing themselves from us. Anyways, so funny to think about. Then I started getting calls from the local school districts that were like, hey, we're trying to open up school in August. So this was like summer of COVID year, so 2020. Hey, we're trying to open up school in August, but we have to legally have those 6-foot stickers throughout the entire school. So you're talking about every elementary, every junior high, middle school, high school, the admin buildings, they all had to have 3-inch stickers that were every 6 feet, which I didn't know where they started. I'm like, so what do you do? Like start at the door or do you like start at the classrooms? I didn't really know how these were supposed to go. I just knew that I could produce these decals for them and that could help me make money during COVID. So I found that, or they found me. I did the first set, and then that school called another school and said, hey, listen, we had these done here. They're really affordable because I mean, I had like cut my margins in half because I was just trying to make a little bit of money. So then they're like, hey, we have this school, and it ended up being 25 school districts in Arkansas and around Arkansas. So that was pretty cool. And that brought in a lot of cash to the business. So that way I could pay my 2 employees that I had at the time, as well as pay our bills personally. So that way I wouldn't go broke. So the sign business boomed during COVID. Again, we had the school districts, you had the restaurants. I made little like, please stay in here signs so that way they wouldn't walk in the door. I made decals that had like a little emoji with a mask on, which was kind of funny about like, mask required to enter this building. So I was really grateful for that aspect of COVID because it kind of opened up the door for me to be able to do more decals and such that I wasn't used to doing beforehand, and also gave me an in with these school districts because then they need anything in the future, they know that they can call me. So we kept our doors open all through 2020, and then 2021 came, and I think that that second year of COVID was harder than the first year when it came to this sign shop specifically. And on a personal note, I also was pregnant all through COVID or 2020. So I had my baby in 2021, and I decided in March of 21 that I was going to shut down the Stuttgart sign shop. Yes, we had boomed during the time of COVID for like all those local school districts. But what was happening was everything was starting to slow down in construction and things like that in 2021. And so I noticed this trend of slowing down, and I was like, I cannot keep 2 locations open. And I knew that my lease was going to be up in January of 22 because I had to sign a 2-year lease. So I knew that my lease was going to be up in January of 2022. I made a deal with the owner of the building like, hey, if I can find someone to rent this building, can I move out early? He was like, absolutely. Definitely a perk of being in a small town is being able to talk to the person that owns the building or who you're renting it from and really just be like, listen, I can take everything back to Little Rock, still service this area like I was before, and I'm just not going to be able to have 2 locations open anymore due to financial stuff, obviously. So he was really nice about it. I found someone that had a boutique and then they moved in there. So that was really great. And then I got to get out of my lease a little bit early. So you may be like, okay, so what happened with those people in Stuttgart? Well, I move out and we still, I mean, to this day, we'll do a few things in Stuttgart for people, but there was someone that came through and opened up another sign shop there in 2022, I believe, and they are actually local. So that's great. They're from there. They open a new business there. They're thriving, and I love that for them. I will still do a few things here and there for some of the industrial people that are like the bigger companies, but I'm very grateful that they at least have enough to sustain a small business there in town and help people that are from that city. So what I learned from that moment was or from those years in that aspect of having the second location of the sign shop is one, I did not plan correctly. I was just really ambitious. And in 2019, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was just all about like, let's take risk. Let's open this. Let's open that. I didn't really think things through. And so I was like, well, I'm already like doing stuff down there. Why not just have a second location? Like, obviously that makes sense, right? And at the time, my partner was with me and he worked for me. And so that kind of helped where I could be like, okay, you go here and I'm going to go there. And I was teaching him the business and he was kind of in between jobs. And so it was like easy to train somebody that I was that close to already. But that also meant that that was our only income and our main income. And so that kind of made it a little bit more of a struggle as well. But I didn't really think things through. I didn't really have a strategic plan in place. I just knew, like, hey, I'm going to make this work. That's what entrepreneurship is. And our mindsets tend to be like, sure, I'll take that on. I'm just going to make it work. And that's what I usually, I have a really bad habit of saying, yes, I'll do that. I'll just make it work. Or, yeah, I'll go ahead and buy that new car. I'll make enough money. I'll figure it out. And instead, I need to be like, no, this is where I need to be at financially. This is how many clients I need before I can hire somebody else. This is what I need to do before I take on a new studio, something like that. So I'm grateful for those 2 years in that aspect of opening that sign shop, learning the hard way that like this is not what I should have done. I should have just kept everything in Little Rock, made the trips once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. Maybe have gone and done sales down there, but then like produced everything in Little Rock. Because now I have a new content studio here in Little Rock and it helped me really be strategic when I opened this place because I'm like, okay, I don't want another sign shop. Um, Debacle or fiasco. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, I've got to close it down in a year or 2 years because I wasn't thinking things through. So I would say I learned from my mistakes, and it's been 4 years, almost 5 years since that happened. And so it's taken me this long to actually be like, okay, let's take that leap of faith again. Let's do that next thing. Let's like do the scary thing, but not be so scared where I'm not actually going to take action, right? We don't want to be so scared that we don't actually do it, but we do want to be scared enough to where we have a strategic plan. We have a backup. We have, okay, if this doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. I'm only here for a year or I'm only here for 2 years or however long. And I will say during COVID, so that was a sign shop. The other side of my business is digital marketing. Obviously, you guys hear me talk about this all the time. I lost about 75% of my clients within the first 3 months of being locked down from COVID. People cut marketing like that. They were like, oh, this is just an expense. We're going to cut you. Sorry, you're the first thing to go. They had government like loans and stuff to help you with payroll, but they didn't really have government loans to help you with marketing. And so people had such a small mindset and said, listen, marketing's the first thing to go because that's just an expense. They didn't have the mindset of it's an investment. And I wish I would have just been who I am today back then because now when people come at me and they're like, oh, it's just an expense, I have to cut expenses. No, this is an investment. This is something that's going to help you get to the next level. If you stop this right now, all of our work that we've done the last 6 months or 2 years or how long we've been working with them, it's all going to go away. It's all going to stop. And then when you call me in 3 months going, oh, okay, I've got the budget now, then we're going to have to start over again. And that really cuts into that consistency. And that is something I've learned as well that I wish I would have known back then of like, listen, let's change our mindset around it. It's not an expense, it's an investment. So I lost 75% of my business or clientele, which wasn't a very big clientele because I was still kind of figuring out my way. I was still trying to figure out my packages. I offered way less than what I do now. I had one team member at the time who I'm very grateful for. We worked diligently through COVID together to really make it. I didn't have to take out payroll loans. I was very grateful for that. But that's because the sign shop really came in and helped me get over that hump, right? So then I would say business started picking back up about 2022. I had my baby in January 21 and I just lost my way a bit because I didn't really plan out like, okay, I'm going to be out of work for 3 months. Then I like went through some personal stuff. So really I was out of work for about 6 months. Then I was trying to figure out how to work with a baby full time. I didn't want to take her to daycare because I thought I was super mom. And so 22 is when she finally went to daycare and I was like, I've got to get back at it. And I started networking again. I joined a leads group and really just built my business all over again. So from 2020 to 2022, those 2 years were super rough. Lots of learning happened in those 2 years. I am so grateful. Some people, when you bring up the word COVID, they're like, oh, I hated that. I didn't hate it. I hated it in the moment. I was depressed in the moment. I was sad. I was freaking out. I was stressed out. Yes, of course I was. But it really helped me change my mindset moving forward and help me learn like, okay, shouldn't have done that, but now I'm going to do this moving forward. Now I need to have more of a plan. Now if there's even any mention of the world ending, I'm like, it doesn't matter. I've already got a plan because I've already survived this hard place. I've already survived these 2 hard years. So if the world does end or if we do have a second COVID, then I am prepared moving forward. I know what conversations I need to have with my clients moving forward, with my team moving forward. Like, I know what that needs to look like because I did it the wrong way the first time.